Yo, what's up guys? Teacher Paul here, and today we have a coffee request. If you want to request a video, click over here or go on to buy me a coffee. Link is in the description. And thank you so much for your support. Kamsahamnida for watching. Guys, today we have a very interesting video which comes from Nami. And Nami says, well, no spoilers. That's all Nami says. So this looks like it's an educational video, and we're going to check it out together. It's from a channel called Jacob Laukaitis. I hope I'm saying his name right. Jacob Laukaitis. And the name of the video is My Life in North Korea versus South Korea. Wow, okay. We're going educational with this video. Don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe, and join me on Discord. The link is in the description. Let's go.
1 year ago, I went on a strictly guided 7-day tour in North Korea where they took away my passport and didn't allow me to explore anything on my own. North Korea was the weirdest country I had ever visited, and throughout that trip, I kept wondering what life was like in the neighboring South Korea, because it used to be exactly the same country just over 60 years ago. That is why at the end of that trip, I promised myself to visit South Korea this year so that I could compare my experience.
Wait, you know what? We might have some Koreans watching, so let's add some Korean subtitles for everyone watching.
1 year ago, I went on a strictly guided 7-day tour in North Korea where they took away my passport and didn't allow me to explore anything on my own. North Korea was the weirdest country I had ever visited, and throughout that trip, I kept wondering what life was like in the neighboring South Korea, because it used to be exactly the same country just over 60 years ago. That is why at the end of that trip, I promised myself to visit South Korea this year so that I could compare my experiences in both those two countries. And that is exactly what I did.
Okay,
During
let's
the
see.
Second World War, Korea was under the control of Japan. When the war ended in 1945, the Japanese forces had to leave Korea, and it was eventually divided into two spheres of influence. The North was controlled by the Soviet Union and the South by the United States. In 1950, a war broke out between the two Koreas, and it only ended in 3 years, having claimed the lives of millions of people on both sides. Then, Korea was once again split into two along the 38th parallel, which was called the Demilitarized Zone. When I was sitting on my plane to South Korea, it has already been over 60 years since the division. And even though I knew the countries had grown apart during this time, I could never have imagined how distant they have actually become.
Oh.
My first glimpse of life in South Korea was the Incheon International Airport. It was one of the biggest airports I had ever seen that was filled with thousands of travelers from all around the world. After an hour-long ride on the metro, I finally reached my hotel, which was a traditional Korean house situated in the center of Seoul. Currently it's 12:30 at night, so there's not much happening, and that is why I'll go straight to bed and wake up early tomorrow morning to explore as much as I can. The next morning, I met up with my friend.
That's
jumped on his
somewhere I
motorbike and
definitely
went
need
for a
to
ride
go,
around
South
Seoul.
Korea.
It didn't take me long to understand why Seoul was the 16th
Nice
largest
Ferrari.
city in the world. It featured tons of high-rise buildings, historic monuments, construction sites, and millions of cars.
16th.
Eventually,
Wow.
we made our way to this tiny amusement park that was situated just a few kilometers away from North Korea. That is an amusement park. That is a big parking lot. That's some sort of a temple. And that is North Korea. A few meters away from
Wow.
the park, they had the so-called Freedom Bridge that basically connects the two Koreas and is almost never being used by trains. Pyongyang, the capital of North Korea, is only 208 kilometers away from where I'm standing right now. This is the fence no one can cross because North Korea is there on the other side. So, what can we see inside? Oh, there's another fence. Okay. So it's still a few kilometers until you reach North Korea, but it's basically just there. Just 1 year ago, I was there on the other side, just a few kilometers away, and now I'm here. I'm this close, yet at the same time so far, because it's impossible to get to the other side from here. You would have to fly to China and then back to North Korea. Crazy.
Okay, wait a second. So you can't ever go from South Korea to North Korea? You have to go to China, and then China you can get flights to North Korea?
Fortunate to have the chance to meet Jong, who was born and raised in North Korea but escaped the country 10 years ago and was now living in South Korea. When I asked him whether he was from Pyongyang, he started laughing and told me only the privileged people get to live in the capital and that it's very difficult for ordinary North Koreans like him to reside there.
Wow.
He told me he came from a little town in the north of the country. He told me stories about how the people living in that area smuggle foreign movies from China, and when they watch them, they think all of those things on the screen are fake. The tall skyscrapers, the modern cities, the fancy cars, and everything else.
Wow. They think even the cities are fake.
Meanwhile, we arrived to this extremely beautiful island called Namiseom that attracts over 1.5 million tourists every year. First off, we put some life vests on and hopped on a super fun speedboat.
Bro, life in North Korea must be very difficult.
Then we rented a tandem bicycle and went for a ride around that gorgeous little island. So apparently there are dozens of middle-aged people playing baseball with a football. It's her turn.
They're playing
She's
baseball
running now.
with a football? That's baseball.
She made it! First base. Okay. Okay. Oh!
Nice.
After the game, we hopped back into the car and talked about how
Hey,
John
that's a
managed
fun
to
game.
escape from North Korea.
Foot
He told
baseball.
me he was let out of the country by some people smugglers who did it for a $30,000 fee that he
Wow.
had to pay once he reached South Korea. Escaping the country was
30,000.
extremely difficult. Jong had to spend 3 years working on a farm in China until he got all of his papers to get into South Korea. Eventually, we arrived to the Garden of Morning Calm, which was a traditional Korean garden housing over 5,000 different types of plants. The park was filled with gorgeous water ponds, traditional Korean houses, tons of visitors, and a super fun bridge. This bridge is very unstable. Shit.
Bro, and to think it was the
Later
same
that evening,
country,
Jong took me
right?
to a park where, as he said, only the local people hang out. Being there, I couldn't stop thinking about the park I visited on my last day in North Korea that also happened to be the birthday of their eternal president Kim Il-sung. You see, our guides also told us that we were finally allowed to visit a park where only the local people hang out. When we entered the park, we were surprised to see hundreds of people dancing and seemingly having a good time. That felt a little strange to us because throughout the whole time in North Korea, people seemed afraid to even look at us. And in this park, everyone's suddenly very outgoing and sociable. That's why most people on my guided tour were convinced this must have been staged. And then it suddenly hit me that if Jong had not escaped the country 10 years ago, I might have met him right there in that park where we'd be a few meters away from each other, but couldn't even talk or look one another in the eyes.
So you're saying they're paid actors to dance and pretend they're having a good
However,
time?
here in the South, we were riding speedboats together, having awesome lunches, exploring gorgeous botanical gardens, and we're free to do whatever else we wanted to do, even something as crazy as this.
Not sure that's legal though. Very
Over the
dangerous.
next few days, I visited dozens of interesting places in Seoul. The first one was the largest palace in the city that was originally built in 1395 and still looked
That's
as beautiful
reckless
as
behavior,
ever.
I guess.
also
I'm kidding,
visited this
guys, I'm
place called
kidding, I'm kidding.
Myeongdong, which is one of the most expensive shopping districts in the world that attracts millions of visitors every year. Then I went to check out the famous Hanok village, which was over 600 years old. It's a very, very famous
Rather than actors, they are ordinary people who come together to put on a show under pressure from the government to be seen by
traditional
foreigners.
Korean village where apparently the houses look exactly the same way they looked hundreds of years ago, and there's so many of them. The same day, I made my way to the Han River, which was filled with thousands of people having picnics, riding bicycles, and admiring the local street performers. It is Friday night, and there are literally hundreds of people in this park just having picnics and hanging out with their friends. And the vibe is amazing. I don't know. Everyone's so happy, and I don't know, just having a great Friday evening. And I love it. It's so good. As much as I enjoyed all of those places, my favorite one was called Lotte Tower, which was the 5th tallest building
Nice.
in the world.
Fifth
So apparently
largest.
this shopping mall has 9 floors of luxury goods. That's how the 9 floors look.
Oh my goodness, wow.
I can't see the bottom, but it's quite far. Eventually, I found an elevator going to the top and jumped on. And so we're on. Oh, look at
Bro,
this.
that's amazing.
Wow. That's some next level stuff. Look at this building, eh? It's growing.
Hey, look at this building, eh? Is he Canadian?
The observation deck featured 6 floors of spacious halls with incredible views of Seoul and the surrounding area. This is kind of scary, eh? Wow!
That is kind of
Everyone's
scary.
taking pictures? My last day in Seoul, I met up with my Korean friend Kim, who was studying a political science master's degree in New York. Yo, man!
Long time no see, bro.
Long time no see. At first, he took me to his former university campus, which was established in 1885 and was the oldest university in South Korea. Being
Wow,
at
the
that
oldest.
university brought back memories of my days in North Korea, where almost every day we would be taken to various schools or other learning centers, and pretty much every time the students had to perform for us.
Wow. It feels like they live in a simulation, doesn't it? Hi,
Here,
Nicole.
however, the vibe was very different. The students couldn't care less about a tourist visit because they were all busy studying and hanging out with their friends. Later that evening, Kim took me to a few bars with his friends where everyone made sure I tried all the traditional Korean drinks and dishes.
To be honest,
Get better than this.
Yeah,
A
you
little
gotta
bit, not
dip
too
it in
much. A little bit.
soy sauce, man. Yeah, again.
Cheers! The next day, I took advantage of the fact that I was free to travel all around the country and hopped on the famous bullet train going down to the south of South Korea. 285 kilometers an hour. This is insane.
Dang.
6. Wow. 8. Welcome to the bamboo park. It's just me and millions of bamboo trees right now on all sides. Oh man, this is so good. Then I continued my trip to a little mountain town situated next to the biggest national park in South Korea. There wasn't that much
You can see that he's talking a lot about his experience in South Korea, but he doesn't have a lot of footage from North Korea. So it's mostly a video about South Korea because he wasn't able to take a lot of images in North Korea, and they only allowed him to see what they wanted him to see. That is absolutely insane, isn't it?
much happening in that town, so I decided to check out the roof of my hotel. Wow, look at that. That's the roof, eh? Wow. Good stuff. Being on that roof, I couldn't stop thinking about Otto Warmberg. He was a university student from the United States who visited North Korea just a few months before I visited the country myself.
Ready? All right. Ready to throw it at me?
And what happened?
2, 1.
He allegedly went to the staff-only area of his hotel and tried to steal some propaganda poster that was hanging on the wall. He was later discovered and sentenced to 15 years of hard labor in North Korea.
Why would he
He
do
reportedly
that,
fell
though?
into a coma and was released to the United States over a year later, where he died just a week after returning home.
Oh, he was poisoned.
Otto was exactly the same age as me, and he went to North Korea almost the same time as me. A year later, I was entering the staff-only area of my hotel in South Korea and walking on the roof feeling completely safe, whereas he was dead
Bro.
for
No, wait. You were feeling completely safe? You could have slept over there. Okay, but it's a different type of dangerous.
South Korea and walking on the roof feeling completely safe, whereas he was dead for trying to steal some random poster from a staff-only area of his hotel.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's so crazy.
Early next morning, I set out to hike the second tallest mountain in South Korea that stands at 1,915 meters above sea level. I'm still about 4 kilometers away from the top, which is not that little, eh? I wasn't very lucky with the weather that day, but I couldn't care less because I was surrounded by beautiful nature, being free to do whatever I wanted to do. Oh, good stuff. 안녕하세요.
It's hard for you to try to do something in North Korea. You're
This
being
is it
watched
right here,
constantly.
the summit. It's 1,915 meters above sea level. Yeah, we're in the cloud. but I can see quite a bit of nature. It's all surrounded by gorgeous rocks. Good stuff. Good stuff. Then
Lots of
I
nature
visited the
activities
Opal
too.
wetlands, which were the biggest wetlands in the country. At that park, I made friends with this guy called Ben, who explained to me that most of their visitors would either be young school kids or elderly people. Now, because it was difficult to make them remember the names of various plants and animals, he created over 30 different dances to help them memorize. Wow, that's so cool. Eventually, he told me we had to go dance together. And branches grow. And branches grow. Branches grow.
That's so wholesome.
The flowers bloom. Thank you very much. Apparently, Ben has traveled all around the world. He finished his master's in New York. He spent 6 months living
Looks
in
like such a
Australia. He visited
good guy.
London, Paris,
Such a nice
and quite a few
guy.
other places. Good guy.
Yeah. I'm very glad to dance with him. Happy dancing, okay?
Dancing is okay.
Okay. Happy dancing. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye bye. Every single day that I
Very
spent
wholesome.
in South Korea, I couldn't stop thinking about how weird it was that even though just a few dozen years ago the Korean people lived in the same country under the same conditions, these days they were leading such dramatically different lifestyles. I kept asking myself why the people in the north needed special permits to travel in their own country, and going abroad was completely impossible, while people in the south could freely go to any place they wished, both inside and outside their country. Why was the whole power in the north concentrated in one person's hands who was considered to be a god? Whereas in the south, people had the power to elect their own leaders and dismiss them if they didn't do a good job. And why were the people in the north not allowed to freely interact and share their thoughts with me, while the people in the south could do whatever the heck they wanted?
Wow. They were flying over there.
Seeing these differences firsthand broke my heart. Why has life become so different for the Korean people in just a few generations?
The true question is, do you think North Korea would have been different if it was, if it was the other way around? If the Soviets were in the south and the Americans in the north, do you think it would end up the same thing? The same way? Or do you think there's more to history than that? I don't know. I think it's mostly because of the people who were in control at the time. And how they continued doing that. Like, people want power. So, okay, let's ask this. If the South had the Soviets in charge and the North had the Americans in charge, but the same leaders were in the same countries, do you think history would have panned out the same way it did? Or do you think it wouldn't? Is it the person or is it the education? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. That was so bold at the time. Oh, sorry. That was so bad at the time. So sad that children have to sing and worship that man. There's no internet in North Korea for the general public. Yeah. I don't think there is internet. And if there is, it's very controlled. There might be, but very controlled. Like very, very controlled. Communism, the leaders wouldn't have been the same. Same with Berlin after the war. That is absolutely insane, guys. And to think that we don't really know what's going on in North Korea because everything that we see in video is staged so that we can have a false perspective of what North Korea really is like. But there's no doubt that South Korea has a lot of more happy people, and yeah, it's really hard to understand why a country would do that to its own population. I mean, I'm sure that the high the high leaders, they have access to life in South Korea. Like they can see how it is. Wouldn't they want to have that for their people? It just doesn't make sense to me. Just for special people. Yeah, but it's hard for me to understand because I will never think the way they think. So obviously I won't understand what goes on in their minds. Do they think their people are like peasants and stuff like that? Maybe that's it. It's something that I can't even imagine. Like, why would people do that? They're not even getting rich doing that. It just doesn't make sense to me. But anyways, it was the same in Germany with the East and the West until the wall fell. Yeah. I guess history repeats itself in different places as well. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching. Thank you, Nami, for sharing this video. Thank you, Jacob, for posting this. And if you want to request a video, go over to Buy Me a Coffee. The link is in the description. Click over here to go to my Korea playlist, and I'll see you on the next one. Take care now. Bye-bye.